So quadratic equations, it's right up here. It's going to form a parabola when you graph it, either opening up or down. So remember the solutions. Everyone put their iPads away. Okay. The solutions of a quadratic are just where they cross the x-axis. So this one has a solution of 1 and 3. So this first part we're not going to graph, but we're going to get used to figuring out the shortcuts to graph. You know, when we have the linear equations, we started out originally back in 7th grade. When you graph these, you had to find some points. You put numbers in for x. If I put 0 in, 2 times 0 plus 3 is 3. If I put 1 in, I get 5 and that. And then you plotted them. And it formed a straight line. And then eventually you learned the shortcut was you can just plot the y-intercept, and then you can do the slope from there, and then draw a line. So you didn't have to do this. Quadratics have the same, they're not as easy as this, but they do have a shortcut. Let's see, let's get an easy one here. Okay. If we had to graph these, you could just do the long way. Again, you can always do this to graph any equation. You just pick random numbers and plug them in. If I put 0 in, 0 minus 4 is negative 4. If I put 1 in, 1 squared minus 4 is negative 3. If I put negative 1 in, what do you get?
3.
Negative 3. Because negative 1 squared is 1 again, minus 4 is negative 3. If I put 2 in, 2 squared minus 4 is 0. If I put negative 2 in, 0. Because negative 2 squared is still 4. Minus 4 is 0. So now I got about enough, but I'll just throw 3 in there. 3 squared is 9, minus 4 is 5. Negative 3 squared minus 4 is also 5. You guys understand why we got the same? Yeah, because when you square a negative or square a positive, it ends up as positive. So to graph this, 0, negative 4, if you plot all these points, 1, negative 3, 1, negative 3, or negative 1, negative 3, 2, 0, negative 2, 0, 3, 5, and negative 3, 5. So when you connect this, it forms a parabola. That's what this is called. I missed the dot. That's okay. Like that. So what that means is every point on that line is a solution. If you go 1/2 over for x, if I plugged 1/2 in here, 1/2 squared is 1/4. Take away 4th is negative 3 1/4. So 1/2 over and 3 1/4 down is right there. Okay? So, a couple things to look at. Someone asked the other day, how can you tell if they go up or down? The x squared, if it's positive, it's going to open up. If it's negative, it's going to open down. So that's part of your assignment today. They're going to ask you 3 questions. You're going to look at it, and for part A, you're going to say, does it open up or down? So what does this one do? It opens up because it's positive. Okay? Again, we could just plug in random values. If I put 0 in, I'd get negative 1. If I put 1 in, 2 times 1 is 2, take away 1 is 0. If I put negative 1 in, here's where they're not going to be the opposite like it was here. 2 times negative 1 squared is also 2, but then I'm taking away a negative 1 minus 1 is 2. If I put 2 in, 2 squared is 4 times 2 is 8. Take away 2, take away 1 is 5. If I put negative 2 in, again, that's going to be squared, so this still turns to 8, but then it's minus, now I've got a negative 2, minus 1. That is 7, or 9. So, when I plot this one, negative 2 over 9 up is right there. Negative 1 over 2 up is right there. 0 over 1 down is right there. So what's happening is it's coming down like this. Then I got to find where the bottom is. It's eventually going to start swooping up again. I know 1 over 0 up is a point, and 2 over 5 up is a point. So it looks like it's going to do something like this. Okay? So, like I said, the first part is doesn't open up or down. Just if the x squared is positive or negative. The second part is, I think they ask you to find the vertex. Yeah. Okay, if you guys probably could figure this out, but you might not know. On a parabola, do you know what part of the graph is the vertex? The very bottom point, so somewhere down here. Or if it opens down, it's the very top point. Okay? This one we can see. The vertex, you're going to have to write the coordinates of the vertex is 0 over 4 down. This one's kind of hard to tell. I don't think that's the vertex. So I think it's somewhere between 0 and 1. So this is another thing you're going to have to memorize for quadratics. Negative b over 2a. X equals negative b over 2a. That tells you what the x coordinate is. Now when I say negative b over 2a, these are labeled. This is A, this is B, and that's C. You're going to need to know that for the quadratic formula, which is coming up later. But A is the number in front of the x squared, B is the number in front of the x, C is the number without an x. So here, my A is 1. What's the B equal to? What's the number in front of the x in this equation? Huh? What number is in front of just the plain old x right here?
Square.
No, what number is, here it's a 1 in front of the x squared. 0, there is no x, right? There is no x. Like here, there's an x. So if there is no x, that means b is 0, because 0x makes 0. And then even though we don't need it for this, the c is a negative 4. So what you do is you take these two, plug it into this. Negative b is negative 0, divided by 2 times a is 2, is 0. That means x equals 0, which I already figured out. Then, all it is it's telling you where to start. It's telling me x is 0, so you can figure out what y is then. 0 squared minus 4 is negative 4. That's the vertex. So you use this is the starting point to find x of the vertex. So on this one, negative b over 2a is b, a is a 2, b is a negative 1, right? So negative 1 makes positive 1. 2 times a is 4. So that means this is the point 1/4 over. And then we got to figure out what it is down. So all you got to do to figure out what it is down is put 1/4 in for x. You're going to want a calculator for these. So when you put in 2 times 1/4 squared, if you don't have a fraction calculator, you know what you put in for 1/4? 0.25. And if you can't do that in your head, just divide it, 1 divided by 4. So 2 times 1/4 squared minus my x, which is 1/4, minus 1 is negative, I hit the wrong number there. Negative 1.125. So that means at a 1/4 over and a little over 1 down is the vertex. Okay? Now, this third part is so easy, it's sometimes hard. Again, you're going to answer 3 things. Does it open up or down? What is the vertex? And then this third thing it asks for is the axis of symmetry. The axis of symmetry is the line that cuts this into 2 equal halves. Okay? Now again, if you just listen to this, it makes it simple. It's going to be a line, and it's going to cut through the x-axis, so it's always going to be x equals something on the axis of symmetry. And it's always x equals whatever the x coordinate is. X is going to equal negative b over 2a. That's the axis of symmetry. So this axis of symmetry is x equals 0. This axis of symmetry is x equals 1/4. Because the line that goes through 1/4 is the line that cuts it into 2 equal parts. So, the 3 things you're doing. A, does this open up or down?
No.
Down. Because it's negative. B, they ask for the vertex. So the vertex is, you figured out using this. Negative b over 2a is, the a is a negative 4, the b is also a negative 4. So negative 4 is 4. 2 times a is negative 8. You don't have to simplify it, but it's easier if you do. Negative 1/2. So there we found the first part. That's the x of the vertex. Now, what do you got to do to figure out what the y is? Just plug negative 1/2 in for the x. Because all you're doing is you're finding the point like we did before. We're plugging in points, but we found out what to put in for that. So you take negative 4 times negative 1/2 squared. Now again, this is where your calculator could mess you up, depending on the calculator you got. When you square this number, it's going to become positive, right? Some calculators, if you just plug in negative 1/2 squared, it's not going to make it negative. So you're better off just putting in a positive number when you do this. So put negative 4 times, just put in 1/2 squared. And again, you can just make this 0.5 if you don't have a fraction calculator. Minus 4 times negative 1/2. Here you do got to put in a negative because it's not being squared. Plus 8. And we get 9. So the vertex is negative 1/2 and 9. That means a half to the left and up 9 is the vertex. And then part C is, what's the axis of symmetry? And this is the simple part, as long as you did this. X equals negative 1/2. Okay? So if I had to sketch this, which we will eventually, I know that at left 1/2 and up 9, so 1/2 over would be right about there. It's the top of it because it's going down. So it's going to go like this. That's how we would sketch it. The axis of symmetry goes through 1/2. So it has to go down the same on each side of that. Okay? All right, you guys wake up so you can see this one now. So for this one, does it open up or down? Up, because it's positive. B, to find the vertex, you need to do negative b over 2a. A is 2, b is 7. So negative 7 over 2 times 2 is 4. It's an odd number. Negative 7/4. Which, on your calculator, you would just put in as negative 1.75. 7 divided by 4. So then to figure out what the y is, you just plug this in for the x's. And again, on this squared, don't bother putting the negative in to make sure your calculator doesn't mess it up. So go 2 times 1.75 squared plus 7 times, and here you do got to put the negative again because it's not squared, negative 1.75 minus 21, and we get negative 27.125. Then part C, the axis of symmetry, is x equals, all right, okay.